Shall we talk racks? So I've gotten a lot of questions about this Prinsu rack for First Gen Toyota Tacoma because there's honestly not a lot of information out there on them. And I had a lot of the same questions when I was looking at getting mine, so today I hope to answer some of those questions and give you more information on the Prinsu rack. So we're first going to start off by talking about install. There is 2 bolts on this foot, 1 on this middle foot, and there's 2 more on this back foot. And so you will have to drill holes in the roof, 5 on each side, and then install a plus nut. And I actually have a few that I got from Prinsu that I'm going to show you how they actually install into the roof. So here are a few of the pieces that you're going to get with your Prinsu rack when you order it. This itself is the plus nut, is what they call it. And this is what's going to drop in the hole that you drill in the roof and allow you to thread the bolts for the roof rack into. And then in order to install these, they send you a bolt like this and a couple of washers. So the way that this works is a washer goes on first, then the spacer, and then another washer like this, and you're actually going to thread this into the plus nuts because there's threads in here, and that's how the rack actually bolts to the roof. So you're going to put all of that on like that. So once you have everything assembled, you're going to go ahead and you're going to push this into the hole in the roof. And you're going to grab a couple of different size wrenches. One of them is going to be a 1/2 inch wrench that's going to fit onto this spacer here, and then this is a 7/16, and that fits onto the head of the bolt here. So once you drop this in, you're going to hold the one wrench and you're going to put this on the top of the bolt, and you're just going to tighten the top of the bolt down while holding the spacer still. And as you do that, you're going to see this plus nut starts to expand, and eventually it's going to completely collapse and pinch whatever it is that you're trying to put it into. So I found this little metal piece. This is obviously thicker than the roof is going to be on your truck, but it has just a hole in it. And what you're going to do is you're going to drop this in, right? And I'll just kind of demonstrate here if I can get it all held together. It'll be a lot easier on the roof of your truck. So you're going to hold the spacer still, and you're going to tighten that bolt down, and you're going to see as it goes. So I've worked on fully tightening this down, and you can see that that plus nut has started to really flatten out around that plate. And so this plus nut is fully installed into this piece of metal. So if I work on backing this bolt out, we're just going to take it all the way off.
A few minutes later.
That's going to stay in there. And it is fully super tight, sealed, everything. So this is what the top of your roof is going to look like after you get this installed. So this may be kind of time consuming because you have to do it twice here, 1 time in the middle, and then 2 more times back here on both sides. So you have about 10 of them total. You can see the bolts right in there. So after you have all 10 of those plus nuts installed into the roof, there are little rubber pieces that go on the bottom of each foot on both sides, and they're all size coordinated, so it should be pretty easy to see which ones are which. And then the holes here in the roof rack are like oval, so you have a lot of adjustability from side to side to get this as square as possible on the roof of your truck. So once you're ready to actually bolt the roof rack onto the roof, I went ahead and did silicone around this plus nut, and I also siliconed inside of that ring so that when I put the bolt in and threaded it down, it would ooze around the bolt and kind of make that seal. Now I will say, one time I did try to tighten down one of these bolts because I kind of felt that the rack was rattling a little bit, and it did break the silicone seal, and I did have a leak that ran from the roof down into the floor and into the carpet and everything like that. So So once you have the rack installed and all the bolts tightened down, I would recommend not touching them again, because I did have to pull the entire roof rack back off, clean up all the old silicone, and then reset it back down with new silicone and everything like that. And so that was just kind of a pain. So once everything's set, I wouldn't touch any of the bolts, and they usually don't back out. I thought this would also be a good time to mention that this fairing does have the light bar cut out. If you option for the one without the cutout, it will come all the way to the top right here. And then I also do have the noise reducing trim. And with this installed, it really doesn't whistle at all on the highway, which is super awesome. I do have the fairing installed at the lowest point. I mean, it's all adjustable all the way up through here. The lowest point will sit it right on the roof, but that does make it the lowest, opening the gap the biggest for the light bar and reducing any chance of wind noise and other things like that. So with this rack as well, it'll come with 6 crossbars that you can almost put anywhere you'd like. You can put them anywhere in these channels. I've kind of just kept them in these small holes here. There's one there, and one in the back. That's kind of just where I've kept them. It spaces them out evenly, everything like that. But you can completely move them anywhere you want. And that's what makes this roof rack so awesome, is because it's so modular. When I ordered this roof rack a couple years ago, the hardware that came with it was just like the normal bolt, a lock washer, and a washer. But they have since changed that. This was ordered 2 years ago. This was ordered just a few months ago. This is the top rack that matches for the canopy, or the topper, whatever you call it. And they just send a normal washer with the bolt, and then they do send you some Loctite. So I would highly recommend putting Loctite in these. It helps them really not back out. Another question I get asked all the time is, do you have to drop the headliner in order to put this in? And no, you don't. I'll show you my goof when I was drilling the holes in the roof and pushing down really hard. I did actually end up drilling through the headliner right here. So just be careful not to do that. Don't be like me. Don't put holes that don't need to be in your headliner. So each crossbar you do get, they're all 2-inch by 1-inch aluminum extrusion, and they have all these little slots in them. So basically this slot allows you to drop like the head of a bolt in there and slide it anywhere you want it, so that when you tighten something down, it pulls the head of the bolt up against the aluminum bar and it tightens it down really, really well. So you can secure things very well with this roof rack. So for me, example, I have 2 boxes that are holding gear, and I have some max tracks here in the middle, all of which are bolted down with carriage bolt into the roof rack, and they are super sturdy and they're not going to go anywhere. So Prinsu actually has a really large lineup of accessories for these roof racks that basically allow you to mount anything, from handles, awning mounts, water ports, roto packs, max tracks, basically anything you would need for off-roading, overlanding, they have mounts available for. I think they even have rooftop tent mounts. So anything you ever going to need, they have light bar mounts for the cutouts, so I would check those out too. It just shows how versatile these roof racks are, and all the things that you can do with them. So let's chat about maybe why you would want to install a roof rack on your Tacoma. First of all, you can't really do anything with the roof space without one. So putting a roof rack up there allows you to utilize a space that most people don't really have access to. Secondly, it's super low profile. So it really doesn't stick very far off the roof of the truck. So you're not going to lose clearance by any means unless you put a ton of really tall stuff up there. And it doesn't whistle. I mean, it's obviously going to be a little louder than it would be without a roof rack. But for what you are doing, what you're able to put up there, the noise is very minimal. Let's chat a second about maybe why you wouldn't want to install a roof rack. You got to drill into your roof, which most of the times people have a perfectly good roof, so drilling into it kind of sucks. It does kind of make it a permanent install. It is really hard to reverse unless you're a professional body guy and you can fill the holes and make it look like nothing was ever there. It does, being so low profile, it is really hard to wash the roof, so it is kind of difficult to keep it protected and other things like that. So maybe you would consider vinyl wrapping the roof before you install it to kind of help that layer of protection against elements and dirt and other things that are going to sit up there for a long time. The last little bit I wanted to touch on would be, who is this roof rack for? And to answer that question, I think you need to decide what you want to actually use your truck for. Do you want it to just be a daily driver? Do you just off-road a little bit? Are you trying to go full overland, crawler? Because by determining what you actually want to do with your truck or how you want it to look will determine whether or not a roof rack is for you. When I first decided to get the Prinsu roof rack for my Tacoma, I was working maintenance at a property management company, and I had a big chest toolbox in the bed that was probably 3 feet wide, and with a 5-foot bed and a 3-foot toolbox, it leaves you with about 2 feet of bed space left. And so it wasn't a lot of room for ladders or other long pieces of wood or anything else, because it was, you know, maintenance. I didn't know what to expect. I could do anything at any time. For me, I've had the roof rack over 2 years now, and I can say that I probably would never go back to not having it, just because the functionality of the truck, being that it is a 5-foot bed, can't store a lot back there. So the fact that I can hold 2 boxes worth of recovery gear, tools, and an air compressor, have my max tracks up there, and I can keep those things with me all the time and never have to take them down is pretty cool. So for me, it was totally worth it. And so for you, I would just ask the question, what do you want to do with your truck? Or how do you want it to look? Because I think it looks freaking awesome. And I could probably even find a picture of it back then in 2020 or so, when I had the toolbox and there was nothing up on the Prinsu rack, not even a light bar. And it looks pretty sweet. So I will also link a install guide from Prinsu's website down in the description so that you can kind of look through. It has all the measurements of where you need to put the holes, how to measure from the sides and back from the windshield and everything to make sure that it fits properly, and they're pretty easy to follow. So with all that being said, if you've made it to this far in the video, then you're a true one, and I really appreciate that. If there's any other questions, anything I didn't answer, please feel free to ask them in the comments, and I'll get to all of those as quick as I can. If you do like the content, make sure you hit the subscribe button. I know I don't ask it a ton, but I really do appreciate it when you do, and it does help out trying to build the channel and everything like that. And if there's any other content or video ideas you guys would like to see about the truck or anything like that, please feel free to leave those in the comments as well, and I'll catch you in the next video.